next laptop sitting right here in front of me today. After this video, you may have your answer because MSI wants to make a compelling case for your attention.
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
With their recently updated line of laptops. These top tier machines can do it all. Gaming, video rendering, audio production, and more. And at least one of them has their sights set on taking out desktop performance and expandability.
Wow.
We are going to tell you everything that you need to know about the Titan 18HX and Vector 16HX from MSI right here, right now on Robeytech. First off, I want to give a huge shout out to MSI and Newegg for sponsoring today's video. These are two of MSI's brand new laptops, and they're both jam-packed with the newest high-end tech. We've got Intel 14th gen CPUs, NVIDIA 40 series mobile GPUs, zippy fast DDR5 drives, tons of storage, Wi-Fi 7, and so much more. Both the Vector 16HX and the Titan 18HX are two high-caliber laptops with horsepower to spare. Or is it dragon power, since MSI's mascot is Lucky the Dragon? And with it being the year of the dragon, does that make this the Double Dragon episode? Okay, first off, there's gonna be no street fighting in today's episode, but we're gonna introduce you to these laptops in more of an overview style video. We're gonna look at specs, features, take a peek under the proverbial hood to show off how easy they are to upgrade. We'll even show off gaming performance, and then we're gonna talk about which laptop is right for who, and if that who might be you. That's like very Dr. Seuss right there. Anyway, we're all gonna start with the Vector 16HX. The Vector 16HX is MSI's high-performance laptop with a huge emphasis on gaming performance, AI acceleration, and user control. And this model has a retail price of $26.99, and it's available at places like Newegg. Now, the Vector 16HX has Intel's Core i9-14900HX processor at its heart. Get it? Vector 16HX, 14900HX. It's almost like they planned that name. Oh, where was I? Oh, yeah, the specs. This CPU has 8 performance or P cores and 16 efficiency or E cores for a total of 24 cores and 32 threads. The 14900HX has an E core base speed of 1.6 GHz and a P core base speed of 2.2 GHz with a max boost speed landing at 4.1 GHz on the E core and 5.8 GHz on the P core. All of this is on a CPU with a base power draw of 55 watts. Now, keep that number in mind because we're going to talk about that in a minute. As for GPU, that all depends on the configuration. This Vector 16HX is equipped with an NVIDIA RTX 4080 mobile GPU with 12 GB of GDDR6. However, if you're looking for a little more or a little less GPU, there will be other models available of the Vector lineup with things like the RTX 4060 all the way up to the 4090. So if you like what you're seeing here, but you want a little bit more flexibility with specs, there are definitely more options to choose from. In fact, we showed off some of those options with their Cyborg line on a live stream that you can check out right here. Now, the Vector 16HX, as the name implies, has a 16-inch display, and it has some of our favorite specs. It's QHD Plus, or 1600p. It has 100% coverage of the DCI-P3 color gamut and a refresh rate of 240 Hz. It's fast, it's modestly sized, and it displays a pretty picture. Like this picture of my dogs. Now, if you're looking for a little bit more screen real estate, there's also a 17-inch model as well, the Vector 17HX. Both Vector models have a ton of connectivity, including things like multiple USB 3.2 Type A ports. We have Type C ports with options for things like power delivery, DisplayPort out, HDMI 2.1, Thunderbolt 4, and even my favorite part, a 2.5 GHz Ethernet port. Now, when we talk about battery, the Vector 16HX has a 90 watt-hour battery, so it's big enough to accommodate the most powerful components within, but small enough that you can legally fly with it on an airplane. Okay, I'm not saying it's gonna make you Superman or anything. Or will it? Now, for storage, the Vector 16HX has two M.2 slots for NVMe drives. One is a PCI Gen 5 slot, which is very fast, and a PCI Gen 4. Now the model that we're looking at here has a 1 terabyte Gen 4 NVMe drive. Now for RAM, the Vector has 2 RAM slots, which in the case of this configuration has 32 gigabytes of 5600 megahertz DDR5. Now the Vector will support up to 64 gigabytes, so you have more room for expansion here too. But let me just tell you, you might need an expert to help you install this one, and we're going to cover that a little bit later. But first, let's take a look at a laptop that lives up to its name, the Titan. We teased this in the intro, but the Titan 18HX is positioned to be a true desktop rival. Whether it's the unprecedented gaming performance, heavy video editing, rendering animations, compiling code, AI work, or you're just looking for a laptop with the capacity for expansion, the Titan 18HX is colossal on every level. Like the Vector, the Titan 18HX is equipped with Intel's Core i9-14900HX processor, but with a bit more juice. And it also takes a step forward with its GPU. And when the only step forward is a step up, that means that the Titan 18HX has the Titanic NVIDIA RTX 4090 mobile GPU with 16 gigabytes of GDDR6. The Titan 18HX has an 18-inch UHD Plus or 4K Plus mini LED display. You heard that right, that's a 4K Plus display, but that's not even all. This thing has 120 Hz refresh rate, it's HDR 1000 certified, and it covers 100% of the DCI-P3 color gamut, and it's mini LED, meaning it's bright. So basically, it's even better at showing off dog pictures. You know what? You could even add photos of your favorite PC builds from Robeytech. I've got to point this out because we talked about this in our laptop buyer's guide. This right here is a great example of what we were talking about when we said to make sure that your display matches the hardware driving your system. Do you guys remember the R's? Resolution, refresh rate, and ratio. And that's aspect ratio. So the hardware in the Titan 18HX strikes that balance that we were talking about. Maybe you missed that video. So what you should do right now is slap that subscribe button, whip that like button, and just jingle that notification bell so that you don't miss videos like this one, or the laptop buyer's guide we mentioned, or the dad jokes that happened along the way. And by doing that, you can expand your horizons, much like expanding the storage and RAM in laptops like the Titan 18HX. And wow, I'm not kidding when I say, does this thing have expansion for days? The Titan 18HX has 4 RAM slots that support up to, wait for it, 192 gigabytes of RAM. And there's also 3 NVMe slots with support for up to 8 terabytes of storage each. That's enough RAM for like 6 Chrome tabs. And you can almost install like all of COD and Flight Sim on the same laptop. So let's bring this down to earth a little bit. Let's talk about the out-of-box configuration that we have right here. The Titan 18HX as we have it is 128 gigs of DDR5 RAM, which is no slouch at 5600 megahertz. It also has 2 2TB NVMe drives for a total of 4 terabytes of storage. And like the Vector, one of the Titan's M.2 slots is a Gen 5 slot, meaning it's fast, and the other 2 are Gen 4. So here's the question though, do you need like a nuclear reactor or some alien power source to run this thing?
Nuclear power.
Fortunately, the answer is no, but MSI has given the Titan 18HX a hefty 99.9 watt-hour battery and 400 watt power supply. This thing has the biggest laptop battery you can legally fly with, and a power brick that makes an amazing pair of nunchucks in case you run into one of those 8-pin ruffians from Double Dragon, you know, like the Bobo or a Roper. You know what? Sheesh. That was a throwback. Now what we haven't mentioned, and it is epic, is the mechanical keyboard with Cherry MX switches, and I gotta say, that keyboard, it feels so good. Or the RGB touchpad, it has haptic feedback, and look at this, it seamlessly lives right here in the center. Seriously, this laptop spares no expense. Now you're probably wondering, you know what, I know you are, how much a laptop of such epic proportion costs? And if your guess was on the higher side of things, you wouldn't be wrong. The Titan 18HX has a $5,399 price tag from Newegg. It is expensive, but it is also awesome. Now that we know what makes these two laptops distinctly different, here are a few features that actually cross over between the two. First, MSI OverBoost Ultra is part of the extreme performance setting that helps balance the power draw between the CPU and the GPU while considering the cooling of both. These two also have what's called MSI's AI engine setting, which does function as an actual performance setting, but what this does is it manages optimal settings per app for things like fan curves, keyboard backlighting and effects, display profiles, sound EQ, as well as balancing for audio inputs and outputs. So this could be everything from providing extra cooling during intense games of Minesweeper, or muting background noise during a Teams call, to automatically adjusting audio levels so that your favorite game doesn't blow out your eardrums when you slap on your headset. Now next up, funny name, it's called Intel's Killer Wi-Fi 7, which includes the Killer Intelligence Engine 2.0. This feature helps prioritize network traffic, and it makes room for network performance sensitive apps to head to the optimal access point in your home network. Both of these laptops also have 2.5 gigabit Ethernet ports and Bluetooth 5.4 courtesy of Intel as well. Plus, you know what? You gotta love that killer name. I just would have loved to have been in the product naming meeting when they had done that.
Anybody have any ideas what we could do? Any suggestions?
The Titan and Vector laptops also have per-key RGB customization and Dynamic 3 audio control, all thanks to the team at SteelSeries. So we've talked about specs, we've talked about features, but Robey, can we please just talk about actual performance? We're gonna start with the Vector first, and trust me, this thing is no slouch. At 1440p plus, the Vector made use of its 240 Hz refresh rate display, as well as that i9-14900HX and that RTX 4080 pairing. It crushed our single player tests with frame rates as high as 191 frames per second with all the bells and whistles turned on. Let's just focus on Cyberpunk for a second. With ray tracing set to ultra, as well as DLSS and frame generation, we saw 111.13 frames per second on a laptop. And when we talk about multiplayer titles, when we're maximizing for frame rate, the lowest we saw was 260 frames per second in Apex Legends, but the highest, 470.5 frames per second in Fortnite. That's unplayable. Let's just throw it away. Now I know what you're asking. Robey, how did this $5,000+ laptop throw down in gaming? And you know what? I'm not gonna make you wait any longer. At 4K, which remember, that's 1.5 times the resolution of what we have on the Vector, the Titan shows off the power of that RTX 4090 and that 14900HX with single player benchmarks that reached all the way up to 174 frames per second in games like Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Even in Cyberpunk 2077, which is by far our toughest test, the Titan averaged 79.96 frames per second. And in multiplayer, the Titan again lived up to its name, with frame rates spanning from 192 frames per second in Apex all the way up to 279 frames per second in Fortnite. But as you can see, this thing really performs like a Titan in games. All of that to say that they are both really powerful machines. And because of that, they both equally need powerful cooling solutions to go with them. For cooling, let's talk about the Vector. It uses a pair of heat pipes and fans that MSI calls the Cooler Boost 5, which sounds a lot like Taco Bell's next exclusive Mountain Dew flavor. The Titan, on the other hand, uses a vapor chamber cooling system. Overall, they both keep their components cool, but we've got to show you some numbers associated with CPU temps and then share an observation that kind of goes along with them. Now let's talk about idle. The Vector rested at an average of 48 degrees Celsius, while the Titan was a little warmer at 54 degrees. Under CPU load, which remember guys, this is the worst of the worst. We're putting it on Cinebench. So the Vector, it held an average temperature of 88 degrees Celsius, while the Titan hovered at around 93 degrees. In gaming, which is what most of you care about, average temps landed at 73 for the Vector and 79 for the Titan. Both handled the heat well, but there is something that isn't represented in these numbers. In our gaming and CPU tests, the Titan CPU was able to draw over 40% more power than the Vector thanks to its advanced cooling and just the additional power the chassis provides. That is a lot of cooling. But the question is, Robey, are they loud? how do they sound? What's the acoustic performance like? Well, let's talk about idle, when it's basically in silent mode and it's just doing stuff. Both the Vector and the Titan hovered at around 42 to 43 decibels. That's about the sound level of a library, which we agree would be quiet. Well, under CPU load, we recorded the Vector at 63.1 decibels and the Titan at 66.1. Now at this sound level, the difference between the two isn't as noticeable, but because the Titan and the Vector handle airflow differently, the pitch of the sound is actually a little bit different. The Titan's vapor chamber cooler actually made it sound quieter than that of the Vector. We mentioned upgradability earlier. Let's take a look at the Titan and the Vector, but let's start with the Titan. The Titan's backplate is held on by 12 identical screws, which is stellar considering that some laptops use a mix of sizes for their screws, which is annoying. And it's always a bummer when you think you have them in the right place only to discover that you don't. But MSI thought about that and made it super easy for you to take a peek inside. And you don't actually have to look that hard to find the NVMe slots. Here they are right here. 1, 2, 3, oh, and look, right there, that's the Gen 5 slot. Now, as for RAM slots, they're covered by this silver small shroud. This is pretty normal. We've seen this on other modern laptops. It takes a little wiggle, but it's easy to get off, and there, right there, are your 4 RAM slots. Now, we just put it back on, close it up, and that's it. Easy peasy. MSI has really embraced the right to repair with the Titan, and we love seeing how easy it is to upgrade. We were going to show you the Vector, but I'll be honest, it was a bit more challenging to get inside. In fact, if you wanted to do any work on this, I would definitely recommend getting outside help. We were sure we were gonna violate like YouTube's community guidelines by showing you what we had to go through to get it open, but it's better to just leave it to the imagination. Now that we know what we're looking at both inside and out, and we have an idea of how these laptops perform, we still need to answer the question we asked at the beginning. Who are these laptops actually for? Now, without a doubt, these laptops are positioned in price, parts, and performance to be top tier. In other words, these aren't going to be a buy it and replace next year kind of device. The aim for these laptops is to keep you doing what you need to do for a very long time. So if you need like a high performance gaming laptop on the go, the Vector 16HX is actually a stellar option. Even if you scaled back on the GPUs, the Vector has a number of features that make it really appealing no matter what configuration you choose. The 1440p plus display with a 240 Hz refresh rate hits a sweet spot for GPU and CPU utilization, which we absolutely love. And the GPU can push that display resolution for a long time, which is a really big additional bonus. Also, the size and weight of the Vector does make it slightly more portable than the Titan, even though the Vector does weigh still about as much as a small bowling ball. Now, if you're looking for a mobile workstation with wide open potential and you also want a top tier gaming experience, the Titan 18HX leaves nothing on the table when it comes to components, features, and expandability. The 18-inch 4K plus mini LED display provides a broad spectrum for color reproduction, making it a great canvas for any digital craft. Believe it or not, there is actually so much more we could talk about, but we still wanted to give you an overview of these two laptops, and hopefully you had a lot of questions answered. I want to give a special shout out to MSI, Newegg, and Intel for sponsoring this video and for letting us look at these flagship laptops with you. If you have a chance to see them in person, you really should. And if you have seen them, or you're interested in knowing more about the MSI Vector or the Titan series of laptops, we would love to hear about that down in the comments below. And while you're down there, why don't you go ahead and slap that subscribe button, whip that like button, and ring that notification bell so that you get a notification each and every time we post videos like this right here on Robeytech. And if you want to continue the conversation, you want to talk about these laptops more, head on over to discord.gg/Robeytech. Great source of people who are like-minded, who'd love to have the discussion with you. And you know what? You might make a friend. Also, feel free to follow us at Robeytech absolutely everywhere. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one.